So just a quick introduction. So this is just slide just gives an overview of our department and some key personnel who work in the finance team. So Emma Sainty heads up our membership communities department. Hannah is sports manager, who's in this meeting with me. I'm Rob, and I'm sports coordinator. We've got some student staff who work within the team as well, and their names are there in the centre. No doubt that you'll probably come across them at some point this year, answering emails and so on and so forth. And then just a couple of key people who work in the finance team. You're probably already aware of the Blades phone number, but if you're not, it's at the bottom of that slide alongside the email address for our team. So just today's session, how it's structured. This session is being recorded. So if you don't want to be caught on video, feel free to turn off your camera. We do encourage you to engage in the chat. So if you've got any burning questions, feel free to kind of speak out loud and share whatever's on your mind, or just drop questions in the chat for us to answer. At the end of the presentation, there will be a Moodle test for you to complete, which is just linked to the content of the training that we're about to deliver. Also, you'll be sent a link to this presentation alongside the recording, which you'll also be able to view through the Sports Toolkit, which I'll draw your attention to later on. Please do take notes. So the aims for today. So it's just to provide you with the key guidance to make sure that your club is smoothly run and that you're working within the law. And also we're going to share some slides with you, and just to remind you that the recording will be available after this presentation. So your roles of president and treasurer are crucial to the club. So you've got primarily one of your key responsibilities is for the club's finances. One of the key responsibilities of the treasurer is to ensure that all members pay their membership fees, especially like ahead of buck season in particular, or when the current try sessions finish at the end of October, if people want to continue training. You're also responsible for paying in income that you've acquired through events, fundraising, donations. The treasurer has the responsibility of approving expenses, which we'll come to later on. Between the pair of you, that you need to kind of budget effectively, ensuring that what income you receive covers your outgoing costs. And most importantly, this is crucial, that ensure the club does not lose money and is sustainable. I'm just going to pass over to Hannah at this point.
Thanks, Rob. Okay, then, so we're just going to go to talk a little bit about your club's account. So in your handovers from previous committees, they might have explained a little bit about your club account. So I'm just going to explain that in a bit more detail. So all of your club finances must go through your official SU club account. You will receive a weekly email that includes a PDF document, which basically is your club report. It looks a little bit like a personal bank statement. It's not actually sort of your own bank account. It doesn't belong to Barclays or anything like that. It's a subsection of the SU bank account, but you will receive a weekly report via PDF format. Hopefully some of you have started receiving them. We'll go through them in a bit more detail in a bit, but basically that outlines sort of all expenditure, all income in there. It's important just to know that you cannot open your separate bank account, so it's actually illegal to do that. So all income, all expenditure must go through your official SU account, and there shouldn't be any external bank account set up. Each club has its own unique 3-digit finance code. So for instance, American football's is AMF. This is for us to identify transactions, and sort of we work with the finance team, and that's how we sort of recognise clubs when we're dealing with anything financially. Like I said, it's not a formal bank account, so there's no card, there's no sort code, there's no account number that you would use to make a transaction from your accounts. But it is an account, a subsection of the SU's account, and it allows the clubs and individuals, like committee members, to make transactions securely. So just a bit more detail on your weekly finance reports then. So as I've said, you'll receive a weekly email, usually comes out on a Saturday, which has a PDF document attached. This is your weekly finance report. If you aren't receiving these, please just let us know that you're not receiving them. It's a manual process for us to add you on to sort of the email list. So let us know and we can sort that out. It's mainly the treasurer's responsibility to check these weekly finance reports. Obviously, if you're expecting some income and it's not come in, let us know. Or if there's any expenditure that perhaps you don't recognise, please let us know. It can be incorrect sometimes, so it's really, really important that between the president and the treasurer you are checking these, because, for instance, some things might be coded to the wrong club or the wrong place. So it's important that you're keeping an eye on these and making sure everything is as it should be. Any club member does have the right to review the club finance report. They can request to do so by submitting a request in email to us, or obviously you can show them, send it into any group chats if you feel that's necessary. Okay, so we'll go on to show an example of your finance report on the next slide. It might be, and I'll talk through this slide when we do that, but essentially any number that's positive is income, so that might be through sports club memberships or fundraising. Any expenditure is obviously negative. Balance carried forwards and your current funds will be shown at the bottom. And as Rob said earlier, it's really important to keep the club funds like steady year on year, and that will your current club funds are where it says own funds total. Some transactions may appear more than once, but they'll often sort of balance themselves out. Like I've said, please contact us if anything doesn't look right, and we can speak to the finance team and try and resolve it. It happens quite frequently, so it's really important that you're sort of on top of that. If your club funds are under £1,000, we'll need to work with you to sort of take action and build these back up. I would say under £1,000 is sort of a point where we have a bit of a cause for concern, and a little bit of a worry. So it's important that we try and keep them above that sort of threshold. And then for Bucks clubs only, all of your Bucks expenditure will go through your club account. So all Bucks costs will go through club's accounts. You will see it. It will appear at the top of your finance report. I'll show you an example in a minute. They're always reimbursed. So say, for instance, if there's a thing on there that says train line, money taken out for your train to your Bucks fixture, there'll be a reimbursement that will be labelled ESB funding Bucks expenditure below it, and the money that's been taken out will be put back in. The final balance under the Bucks bit should always appear as zero. So if it doesn't, and it hasn't for a few weeks, then let us know and we can speak to the finance team about sorting it out. So for those of you that haven't seen your weekly finance report yet, this is what it will look like. So essentially you can see there it's got direct sport expenditure, so you can see that's minus, that's obviously expenditure, so money that's gone out of the account, and that's all represented by a minus there. Sports club memberships, obviously you can see that's money that's come in from sports clubs memberships. You can see that actually they don't go in per membership, it's done at like over a certain period of time. So if you've had, I don't know, 20 people buy a membership in a certain period of time, that will just appear as one income line, and then the same there. That's why there's all different amounts on that list there. At the minute it will probably show that your club funds total is zero. That isn't actually the case. The reason it shows that at the minute is just because the accounts are in the period of rolling over for the new academic year, and as a result the finance team have had to withdraw all club funds from the current accounts just to roll them over to the 25-26 account. So you can see there it's a club/society balance carried forward, and it's the transaction where £3,000 has been taken out of the account, but when you get your new account that will be put back on there. Cool. So finance codes then. Actually, before I go on to finance codes, can I just check if there were any questions at all on the weekly finance report? I'm aware it can be a little bit confusing to understand it when you first look at it. So has anyone got any questions on it at all? I'll take that as a no, that's fine. If there is anything, just let us know, because I'd rather you understand it and understand what everything means on there, and rather than just be confused about it. I should just add, you don't need to pay attention to the ledger code or RF. That's all for sort of internal finance processing, so don't worry too much about that. The main concern should just be the net total, the description, ledger account. Yes, Rachel, they will be refreshed. So when you get your new report, it will almost be like a new account as such, and then it will just show you all income, all expenditure for that academic year. So everything that appears on there now, if it's after the 1st of August, that is all that will appear on your finance report for the 25-26 academic year. Okay, so the following thing again is more of a sort of an internal processing for us and the finance team. But essentially, if you can see I'll just flick back to the weekly finance report slide. You see where it says ledger code there on the second column. Like I said, you don't need to pay too much attention to it. But if you did want to know, this is what they all mean. So 85200 is any club membership fees. 85300 is your session or match fees. General income is 810. That's any non-sport related income. Donations have their own code, and then Alumni Click fundraising also has its own code, and then it's the same for the expenses as well. So you can see when you see all of that stuff at the top line of your account, if you're a Bucks club, those bottom three codes will be what they're coded under, and then the other codes as well. Like I say, not totally important, but good to know if you do sort of want to understand what each code means. In terms of spending money then, so say for instance, if you need us to purchase something for you, or you need to purchase something for your club, there's a few ways in which we can do this. So the first way would be to ask for an invoice from the company you're purchasing from, if it's possible. Most companies will invoice you if you email and ask them. Some might ask for a purchase order number. That's if it's a company that we sort of regularly use. In this instance, if anyone ever asks you for a PO number, please just let us know and we can work with you to provide them with a PO number. That's not a problem. If it's a large expense, you're not willing to sort of pay for it yourselves and then claim back, please ask us. We've got a department card that we may be able to potentially use. It's limited funds, so it depends who else has requested stuff in that time, but it's definitely an option. And we'd always sort of advise that you come through us or go through the invoice route before you sort of purchase it on your own card and then claim it back. Obviously, the last way to do it is that individual members pay for the products and then claim expenses back afterwards. We'll touch a little bit later on the expense system and how you actually do that. We only recommend doing this for purchases under £50. Like I say, if it's something little that, I don't know, you've gone to wash your Bucks kit or something like that, then this is a way in which you can claim back those costs through the expensing system. But say, for instance, if you want to order, I don't know, a piece of equipment that's £200, we'd recommend either doing it through our card or asking the company for an invoice. I would say as well, we have certain discounts with certain kit suppliers and equipment suppliers. So if there is anything that you sort of want to purchase, reach out to us, see if we can get a discount from a different provider or a different company first. And then obviously, if we can't, happy to use whoever you want to use, but might be more beneficial if we do go down the route of trying to find discounts, etc. Before any purchase, please check with the treasurer that there are sufficient funds in the club to make the purchase and that they agree to what is being purchased. And it's really important that all purchases should benefit all club members and not just particular individuals or certain group of individuals. So say, for instance, if you're planning a trip and you've got 25 club members, you should have the funds to cover all of them. and it doesn't take you to below the obviously 1,000 threshold or too much expenditure, but it shouldn't just be that certain groups of individuals and certain people in those club are benefiting from the club funds. The club funds are there to support all members, and so any sort of purchasing, any paying for stuff or anything like that should benefit everybody. Okay, so this is just a bit more info then if you want us to purchase anything using our department card. We just require the following information. So if you can just send a hyperlink to the items, say if it's on Amazon or whatever, any size information, the color, the quantity, any other relevant information. The more information you include, the better, because sometimes there's always questions on these things that, I don't know, how many of them do you want, what size exactly. So the more info, the better for us. So it's an easier process for us just to purchase for you. In terms of ordering then, so any personalized items, e.g. if your committee want hoodies or shirts or anything with your names on, how we would normally do this is that we would set up a ticket on your web page that would mean individuals could pay the money into your club's account. What we would then do is we would put the order through with Surridge, and then we would take that money out of your club's account. We call it a ticket that we can set up on your club web page. Some of you might already sort of know how this is done or have it set up currently, but essentially it appears in the merchandise section of your web page. It's just a really, really easy way for club members or committee members to pay money into the account. And then, like I said, we can come through and take that money out. Club with strong finances, so if your finances are in a healthy position, all looks good, then we're happy for the committee's kit to be funded 50% by the club and 50% by themselves. With Surridge orders, like I said, the invoice will be charged directly to your club's account. You can order online. That's better for individual orders. There's a bit more info under the merchandise section on your club page about these orders as well. So you can order online, or you can email Jimmy at Surridge. His email address is there. We do recommend that you CC us in first. Any new equipment requests, so gloves, sticks, anything like that, they must be emailed to Blazer Essex and approved by your treasurer before purchase. Okay, so VAT then. So I'm aware the whole VAT thing can be slightly confusing. It's a little bit more confusing for sport as well, purely just because some items within sport are VAT exempt, whereas some aren't. So essentially, that is currently 20%, and it's added to most purchases and deducted on general income. So sports clubs are treated as exempt for any products that directly relate to sport. So say, for instance, sports equipment, that's VAT exempt. You won't end up paying the VAT on that. However, anything not directly related to sport, so say, for instance, if you were booking a venue for a social, you will be charged VAT on that, and then you'll need to account for that if individuals are paying money into your club account for instance, a social or something like that. So you can claim back VAT when you pay for goods, but only if you've got a VAT receipt when you pay. This must show VAT registration number and a breakdown of the VAT. Not all companies are VAT registered, so just be mindful of that. So this is an example of a VAT receipt. So like I said, it needs to show a VAT registration number and it needs to show a breakdown of the VAT, which you can see at the bottom under the total there. For general expenditures, like we said, VAT can be reclaimed. For any non-sport related expenditure, then VAT can't be reclaimed. In terms of actually calculating your VAT, so for instance, let's take the example that you're paying for, I don't know, a local venue to host a social in, maybe a cafe or something like that. And let's say the cost of it is £200. You're going to get members. Let's say if you've got 10 members, you want to pay the cost of that. What you would need to do is make sure that the money that the members are paying in includes the VAT price, because the VAT will be taken off that money before it reaches your club account. So to calculate the VAT deducted, you need to divide the ticket price by 1.2. So say, for instance, let's take a £30 ticket. divide that by 1.2, and you would only receive £25 into your club account. So say, for instance, if we've set up a ticket online that's £30, if it's if the activity is to be charged VAT on, then only £25 of that is going to go into your club's account. So to calculate the correct price, that would mean that you got £30 into the club account after the VAT was taken away. You would need to multiply your income by 1.2. So if you wanted £30 into the club account for a non-VAT exempt activity or product, times it by 1.2, and then there you would get £36 of would be your ticket price. £30 of that would go into the club's account. Cool. Expenses then. So all expenses must go through the expense-in system. So there are 2 different account types for treasurers. Everybody else will only have 1 account type, but for a treasurer, you'll have a submitting account and an approval account. So your submitting account is purely for any expenditure that you are claiming back from the club, and your approval account is to approve other club members or other committee members' expenditure. Okay. So treasurers have automatically received an approval account. So hopefully you've got access to that, or if you haven't, you would have received an invitation for an approval account. If you also want to claim back expenses from the club as a treasurer, you must create a submitting account. So a submitting expense account. That is the same process for the treasurer as it is for all other club committee members. So the process for that is that you go on the EssexStudent.com website, you find expenses, you complete a type form with various different information on, you submit that, and then what happens is you receive an email sort of invitation confirmation, which isn't automatic, so that it's a manual process that the finance team do, and that is delivered back to you between 2 to 4 working days. Obviously, be mindful of sort of various different busy periods that the finance team may have. So we say between 2 to 4 working days. If it's any longer than that, let us know. And then once you've created your account, you can log in to make your claim while it's active. A step-by-step guide on how to create a expense-in account, how to submit an expense, how to view the current status of your expense can be found on the Sports Toolkit. So it's just a Word document and it runs you through the whole process. Please signpost all your committee members, all your club members to that that support guide and that step-by-step guide. In the past, we've had loads and loads of questions about how to do it. I can't set up my account. So please just signpost them to that information. And if they still get stuck, they can reach out to us, but please signpost them there first. Okay, so in terms of the actual approval flow, we've just created a sort of a little flow chart that explains how it will work. So say, for instance, we start with a club member submitting an expense. If the expense is under £50, it will be sent to the club treasurer to either accept or reject that expense. Please just make sure, and this is super important, is that they have a club membership before they are claiming back an expense. So nobody without a club membership should be receiving any money from those club funds. Okay. Once the treasurer has either accepted or rejected that expense claim, then the outcome notification will be sent to the club member. If the expense is over £50, it will be sent to us, and then we will either accept or reject that. Again, outcome notification will be sent to the club member too. Okay, so this is just the approval flow for the treasurer. So it works in a bit of a strange way, really. But essentially, the club treasurer will submit an expense on your normal submitting account. You will then either approve or reject that expense on your approval account. It will then be sent to us for secondary approval, and then we will have to finally sign off on it before you can receive the money. And again, outcome notification will be sent to the individual as well. Okay, some just really important info on expenses. You'll be able to review the status of any pending expenses on your account. This is so important, like I said before, but students must have paid their sports club membership, otherwise claims will be rejected. Receipts and evidence must be attached, otherwise again we'll just reject the claims. Cost of alcohol can't be claimed back, and the Essex Blades staff team reserve the right to reject any expense claim. The next bit is just about mileage expenses then. So say, for instance, if you've drove to a Bucks fixture or something like that, the mileage expenses will always come to us for approval. In order for an individual to claim back mileage expenses, they must have sent the photo of the front and back of their driving license and insurance documentation to us before we can approve it. We've actually got a type form under the expense section on the toolkit just to make it easier for individuals to actually submit this information. If you know that you're going to be driving for the club this year, we recommend that you send these documents and complete that type form in advance, so there's no hold-ups when you submit your expense. And it takes a lot of time for us chasing individuals about driving license and insurance documentation. So if you've got a member that you know is about to claim for a mileage expense, please make sure they've submitted all the relevant documentation before they do so, because we'll just reject it in the first instance, go back to them and ask for it, and they'll have to submit it again. When submitting a mileage expense claim, please state the postcode, so we'll only sort of refund and reimburse journeys that start from the uni, so that's the uni postcode there, and then where the postcode ends. The expensing system will automatically work out the number of miles travelled and will work out the rate as well. You'll also be required to complete the full names of all eligible passengers, and then that will work out how much money you are due to be reimbursed per mile. As you can see on the right hand side, if it's one person in the car, so just the driver, it's 25p per mile, 2 people 30p per mile, 3 people 35p, 4 people 40p, and 5 people 45p. And then there's just the definition of the eligible passenger at the bottom there. An eligible passenger is defined as another player or match official. Spectators are not included. So say, for instance, if you've drove to a Bucks match, you're the only one playing and you've driven 4 other spectators, you can only claim back of 25p per mile. It's important you put the names on there as well, because we'll be able to check Bucks team sheets and things like that. Okay, are there any questions on any of that section at all before I pass back over to Rob, who's going to go through sort of raise and give next? I will take that as a no. No other restrictions besides alcohol. The only other thing we would say is that it should be sort of claimed back within 90 days of the purchase, and it's really important that receipts are on there. And again, it comes back to that thing of benefiting all club members. So say, for instance, if an individual is claiming back a cost, I don't know, perhaps just of some boots, then obviously that's not really appropriate. It needs to benefit everybody, and it will sort of be up to sort of our discretion and the treasurer's discretion as to whether or not they feel it's appropriate. Some people take the mick and try and get things sort of accepted that perhaps shouldn't be. So it's important that you're quite sort of tight on it, and you're thinking all the time, okay, does this benefit everyone within the club, or is this something the club could afford to give everyone, or is it just a case that this one member's trying to be a bit sneaky as such?
Cool. Yep. So just moving on to RAG, which stands for Raise and Give. So I don't know if you're aware, but the SU is a registered charity. So donations to external charities need to go through a RAG account, which is a separate account to those that include club funds. This applies to all forms of fundraising. So be that like what you undertake online or through a card machine, or if you collect cash as part of that. You're going to need to complete a RAG form. I'm not going to open up the link here, but this presentation will be made available to you later on. So just feel free to kind of explore the different documents which are hyperlinked, but you'll need to complete a RAG form. With that, just the amount raised that you look to pay in, your club name, and the charity name that the funds are due to go to, alongside their address and bank details, which I'll touch upon later. You may need to contact any charity that you're fundraising for in order to get their bank details. And basically, any donations which are due to be made to them will be postponed until we get those details in place. So just a couple of slides on cash payments now. So if you're looking to do some fundraising and you need some change, you need to get a cash float for any sales. So it might be, I don't know, you're doing a bake sale as part of your club for fundraising. It's always important to get another member of the committee just to check the amount in the float before starting, just to check that you're both happy with the starting amount. If you want us to sort out a float for you, just need to contact us directly at the Blades email address, and then we can then liaise with finance to acquire that for yourselves. All cash that's raised needs to be paid into SU reception, and I think most of you have probably been informed that SU reception is now located on square 4 below top bar. Once finished, that float will need to be returned to SU Finance, and basically just any fundraising, all the money will need to go to SU Finance, who then kind of process that and send that to whatever charity you're raising money for. So continuing on from that, all income expenses must go through your club's account. Just don't try to kind of cut corners. So never offset expenses, and I'll give you an example of what that's all about in a moment's time, against income and pay the difference, because this is just a way of avoiding tax, VAT, and is deemed as illegal. Always pay everything that you've raised into the account and then claim back any expenses afterwards. Okay, never ever kind of pay any income that you've raised into your own personal account. So here's just an example at the bottom. So imagine that you've raised £100 for your club for a bake sale, but £20 of your own money was spent towards ingredients for those for any cakes, for example, that you may have made. So you will need to pay in all the money raised before claiming back any expenses. So you can't take out £20, for example, from the £100 raised and then only pay in 80. And this is the option to use card machines. If you wish to use one for an event, then you could do that for our department. And there's a link to a form there where you can request a card machine. Can't use any of your own card machines, so have to be SU owned ones. And there are some SU card machines which are linked directly to SU club accounts. We've got 5 machines in total, 2 of which are for raising and giving, do fundraising, where all the money goes to charity. And the other 3 are linked to club accounts, because you just might want to do solely a fundraiser where all the proceeds go to the club. Just be clear in the form where your income is going, and make sure you just do a bit of forward planning, because these card machines do get booked up quickly at different points during the year. So you don't want to miss out if you need one. There's just steps you need to go through to book a card machine. So just email Blades with all the details. Remember to attach the club machine form referred to on the previous slide, where you've got the hyperlink to that document. If you're fundraising, you need to complete a RAG form as well, which I mentioned earlier. If everything's approved, you'll find out yourselves, then you can collect the card machine from SU reception. Just make sure you just use it for the event that you specified you intend to use it for, and once finished, just return it straight back to SU reception, please. We do allow students to use card machines at the weekend, So if you have, for example, an event running on Saturday, you can collect the card machine on Friday, but please make sure you return that on Monday morning when SU reception reopens. So invoices, just got a few slides on invoices now, because you'll be dealing with lots of different invoices over the course of the year. So they're the easiest way for us to make payments directly from your club's account. What you'll find is that a lot of companies will provide invoices, but as an SU, we're quite fussy about what details must feature on those invoices, which I can go through with you just in a moment's time on the next slide. So if you are a sports club and you need to pay via an invoice, and examples when an invoice might be appropriate is, for example, you're entering a competition, there's fees associated with that. So the company in question, the organizer, might invoice us for competition entries. Might be that you're due to stay at a hotel and we need an invoice from the hotel in question, so that could be settled, and any equipment purchases. So any invoices can be sent directly to SU invoices at essex.ac.uk. That's an email account which is overseen by our finance department. And when you send an invoice to them, just please loop us in and CC in the Blades account. It's the club treasurer whose responsibility is to deal with invoices. And on the invoice, we need to have the University of Essex Students' Union's address, which is featured on the slide, and then you can also include your club name within that address, so it's just clear which club that invoice relates to. If for whatever reason the invoice is missing that address, it will result in a delay in payment, because that's something that our finance team is like a non-negotiable with them. They need that address on there. And there's an example of an invoice template that can be found on the slide, which you can look at later on. And quite often companies will just use their own, but if for whatever reason you might be dealing with an individual, and just that makes sure that that they use an approved template. So you need that on the invoices. There's various different things that need to feature on them. So it's the bank details of whom the money will be sent to, the date in which they provided the service. So it could be, I don't know, like some clubs will be responsible for sorting out officials for Bucks fixtures, and they might be giving an invoice which we've suggested that could be used on the previous slide to, I don't know, for example, a netball official, and then on the invoice need to be specific as to when that service was provided. It might be that the netball official might put on there officiated a women's one fixture versus UCL, for example, and the date of that fixture. It's just important that we can clearly see, what we're paying for. If any incorrect details again feature on the invoice, we just need to wait until the supplier just to kind of amends those before we move ahead with payment. And just feel free to kind of refresh yourselves about what needs to be done by just looking through this presentation at any point before kind of dealing with anything invoice related moving forwards. So this slide just provides an overview of different timescales when it comes to payments and processing and so on and so forth. So I've already mentioned about who to email invoices to, payment terms. Quite a few companies, like say, need to be paid within 30 days or so. So we need to make sure that we get that invoice to our finance team as soon as possible, so that we can pay within the time scale that they are hoping to be paid within. Payment runs, our finance team do payment runs every Wednesday, and just Wednesdays only. So when an invoice is submitted for that needs to be processed, it'll be signed off by a member of the Blades team. So if you're just submitting an invoice, don't see that as that's done and that payment will be coming to the desired recipient kind of like promptly, because it does need to go through like a chain of different people in order to be fully processed. If payments are processed on a Wednesday, typically like the funds will appear in the recipient's account by Friday. If they haven't, my general advice is if the recipient hasn't received the funds by the following Wednesday, is just to contact SU Invoices directly just to get an update on that. Some suppliers you might find require upfront payment, so just make sure you just get those invoices in advance to avoid any delays. So just a few reminders. So just allow plenty of time for them to be raised and paid. Don't hand them in last minute expecting them to be paid, especially bearing in mind we only process payments on Wednesday. The strict deadlines you might find for certain payments. So for example, for entry fees. So it could be that if for whatever reason the invoice is submitted late and we miss the deadline for payment, it could prevent a club from participating in a particular event. Over the Christmas period, no payments are made for obvious reasons because the SU shut, and any deliveries must use the address below, which I referred to earlier, and it's just important that we know who the delivery's for. So sometimes it's just the club that's put on there. Feel free to put the name of the person and the club alongside the SU's address to make things even more clearer. So moving on to donations. Sometimes clubs might be in a fortunate position where they've got possibly an alumni who's made a donation, for example. So any donations must be paid directly into the SU's bank account, and the details are on the following slide. You've got to use a particular reference format. So start off with the club code, and if you're ever uncertain of what club code your club has, just double check with ourselves and we can share that information with you if you're expecting a donation. Then the initial followed by the surname of the person who's making the donation and the donation itself. So it's got an example there of what that could look like. Okay, so AMF is American football. The person who's making the donation is T. Smith, and then we know it's a donation because after the final / there we've got the word donation, so it's obvious. Just please make sure that you kind of email SU expenses if you do or you feel expecting any donations. That is another email account overseen by our finance team, and then just CC Blades in as well, and then just provide just the information outlined there on the bottom of the slide. Those are the SU's bank details, and just again, just a reminder of the things that you need to put in the reference, or the donator needs to put in the reference rather. Okay. Just moving on, just a couple more slides from me. So another way that clubs can raise money is through Click crowdfunding. The university has their own pot of money which they offer for this, which I'll just touch just lightly upon, but it's something for you to explore yourselves. So Click is Essex very own crowdfunding platform. It's free for students and alumni to raise funds for different ideas they might have and big projects. If successful, you are eligible up to £500 of match funding. So, for example, for every donation received, like pound for pound, you can get up to an agreed limit. So you might have £100 of match funding, means that for every pound raised will be £2, be worth £2 in essence, and the project's final amount would be £200. There's further information via the two links at the bottom of the slide, but it's something that I think it's an opportunity is under kind of used by clubs to raise money. So it's definitely worth exploring, because I know that there is always money kind of unspent at the end of the year, set aside through Click. Okay, sponsorship. You can look to get sponsorship from external companies, but you just got to be wary of the conflicts that exist and companies that you can't approach. So anything that the SU provides or the university or contractual suppliers, you're not allowed to seek sponsorship through them. So a list is provided here. So for example, you can't get sponsorship from local bars club because on campus we've got our own SU bar, and that also covers food outfits. So as we have Pizza U, you can't go to like Pizza Hut, for example, looking for a sponsorship deal. That applies as well to cinemas. We've got City 10 on campus. Any letting agencies, because we have our own here, SU Homes. Any supermarkets, because we have the store on campus. And then the list goes on. There is details of everything surrounding sponsorship, which can be found through that link there, which is a financial policies and procedures document. And then a sponsorship agreement, which will need to be signed by the different parties involved. So representatives from the club, from our team, and also from the company that you're seeking sponsorship from. We need to sign that document. It's always important that if you think you've got a potential sponsor, is to come to us first, and then we can see whether it's actually a viable opportunity for you to pursue. Okay, but you'll hopefully be able to kind of maybe work it out for yourself to a certain degree, bearing in mind kind of the companies that we and the sectors that companies from sectors we can't approach as outlined on this slide, but also if you familiarize yourself with that document. And that's it from me. So pass over to Hannah.
Perfect. Thanks, Rob. So that's the main content of this course covered. Hopefully we've sort of provided you with the information and the resources you need to successfully sort of run your clubs in terms of the financial element of them. We've got a bit of an opportunity now for anybody to ask any questions, should you have any. So I'll give it a minute or so, 30 seconds to put any questions you may have on anything we've covered or maybe not covered within the chat. Please don't leave just yet. We have got a Moodle quiz for you to complete. We'll be sharing the link for that in the chat just after a bit of a period to ask any questions. So I'll give you 30 seconds to ask some questions while I get the link for the Moodle quiz.
Just on something completely different, I'm just going to put just a series of steps in the chat, which members of committee can follow to upload their photo to their club's webpage. We still have quite a significant number of students that are in committee roles that haven't done that as yet. So if you're one such person, I'm just going to put the details here in the chat. If you follow those steps, then your photo will appear on your club's webpage above your role title and name.
Hi, Freddie. Yeah, once we have finished the recording, we'll upload it to the Sports Toolkit on essexstudent.com. In the Sports Toolkit, there is a section called Training, and then under the Finance Training, it will be on there probably by early next week. We'll aim to have it on there.